The lesson that we're going to go over today is factoring quadratic equation. But before you can understand how to factor a quadratic equation, I want to teach you about the X-factor method. The X-factor method is a very easy method once you understand the process. It is simply an X. You draw an X. And what you do is you take these two, which we're going to call factors, you multiply them together to get the top number, and you'll add them together to get the bottom number. I call this the attic and the basement, and I'll explain why in a minute. So 2 times 7 is 14. 2 plus 7 is 9. 5 times 9 is 45. 5 plus 9 is 14. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 plus 4 is 7. We're just filling in the X factor right now. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 plus 6 is 12. So you always have to multiply the two side numbers to get the top number and add the two side numbers to get the bottom number. Okay. So I want you to remember that as we go into factoring quadratic equations. When we're factoring a quadratic equation, I need to let you know what is a quadratic equation. Well, first, a quadratic equation is a trinomial because it has three separate monomials. So the quadratic is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay? So now let's label what is this a, b, and c. Okay? So if I have the example negative 2x squared plus 5x minus 4 equals 0, my a is negative 2, just like it is in this same location. My b is 5, and my c is negative 4. Now when we go to factor something like this, what we're going to do is after you label the a, b, and c, that's when the X factor will come in, okay? Now here's where I was coming to when I said that I need to have an attic and a basement. If you'll see here, the attic is a times c. So what you have to do is you have to multiply a times c to get your attic number. Your attic's on top, AC, AC, a times c. Remember, you have to multiply and add. Okay, or you're going to have to multiply these numbers and you're going to have to add these numbers to get the basement. But the attic, if I give you the number, it's going to be a times c. So right here it would be negative 2 times negative 4, which would be a positive 8. So you would have an 8 here, and then you would have a 5 down here. Okay, now the only thing I have to warn you about is watch your signs. When you're using the X factor, just make sure you watch your signs. Okay, so this is your basic X factor. And now we're going to work a couple problems with it. All right. There are a few steps that you're going to have to go through. So I'll go through those steps with you real quick before we start working the problems. Step 1, you have to factor out a GCF. Now, it's not always possible to factor out the GCF, but if there is one, we want to go ahead and get that pulled out. Okay. Then we're going to use our X factor, okay, which we're going to multiply the A and the C to get our attic. We're going to add these to get our basement, okay? Now, when I'm talking about multiplying and adding, y'all, I'm talking about the factors, okay? You're going to add these two factors to multiply. You're going to add these two to get the basement number. The basement number is coming from the B, and the AC is coming from your quadratic equation, okay? We're going to list factors of A and C. Once we have these factors right here, we're going to write it out as like X plus something, open parentheses, and then close parentheses, then open X plus something else, okay? Close parentheses. Now, if we have an A that's anything other than 1, we'll have to divide by that A term, but we're going to worry about that in the next lesson. Today, we're just going to work with A's that are a value of 1. You'll solve for X by using your zero product property that we just got completed with, and then you'll have your answer. Okay? So let's look at this first problem on your notes. The first problem on your notes says x squared minus 14x plus 40 equals 0. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to list out A, B, and C. Okay? The value of A is 1 because remember, there's always this imaginary 1 up front. The value of B is negative 14 and the value of C is 40. Now we're going to create an X factor. Okay? Now remember, your addict is multiplied, A times C. So you have to have your A times your C, which is 40. And our basement number is going to be negative 14. Remember, I told you to watch your signs, so this is where you need to be paying attention. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a T-chart. What are all the factors of 40? Well, I can multiply 1 and 40 and get 40. I can multiply 2 and 20 to get 40. I can multiply 4 and 10 to get 40. And I can multiply 5 and 8 to get 40. Okay? But I need to figure out, if I can add these, I've got to come up with 14. So let's figure out how to get 14, and I'll worry about my negatives in just a second. 1 plus 40 is 41. That's out. Okay? 2 plus 20 is 22. That's out. 4 plus 10. Oh, 4 plus 10 is 14, right? Now, I need to figure out how I can add these up to get a negative and multiply to get a positive. If I put a negative in front of this 4, I would actually come up with a 6. So that's wrong. If I put just a negative in front of the 10, right? Because if you have negative 4 plus 10, it equals 6. If you have, if you have 4 plus, or 4, yeah, plus negative 10, okay, you know, Miss Shades, I prefer to write 4 minus 10. We would come up with a negative 6. But if I had a negative 4 minus 10, I'd get a negative 14. So that's the trick right there. We're going to put a negative in front of both of these. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Negative 4, negative 10. Those are my two factors right there. So now I'm going to set it up in my binomials. X minus 4. Now I'm using a minus because this is a negative. And x minus 10 equals 0. Now we use our zero product property. X minus 4 equals 0. X minus 10 equals 0. Add 4 to both sides. X equals 4. Add 10 to both sides. X equals 10. So your answer is x equals 4, 10. All right. Now, we're not going to do number 2. I want you to look at your homework assignment, and we're actually going to do the very first problem on the homework together. We're going to come back to if we have an actual number for A in just a minute. So on your homework, you're going to be doing the odd. So I'll do number 2 as an example here, okay? Sorry about moving my phone there. So let's look at number 2 on the homework assignment. It says n squared plus 7n plus 12, okay? So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to list out A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 7, C is 12. We make our X factor. 1 times 12 is 12, and 7 goes in the basement. Now we make our T-chart. Okay. What can I multiply to get 12? Well, I can multiply 1 and 12. I'm going to multiply 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay. I'm going to stop right there because if you add these together, 1 plus 12 is 13, 2 plus 6 is 8, but 3 plus 4 is 7. So my factors are 3 and 4. So I'm going to set it now. I'm going to say x plus 3, x plus 4 equals 0. And, oh, wait, hold on. We're not going to do the equal 0 part. Sorry about that. So your answer is just this. Okay, now what is the difference between that and the other problem I did a minute ago? If you have a problem, like look at number 18 on your homework, b squared minus 7b plus 12 equals 0. Now this is where they want us to use the zero product property at the end, okay? This is just factoring the trinomial. The other ones, this one says, hey, you're going to factor and you're going to set them equal to 0. See the difference? This one does not have an equal 0 and this one does. So let's try this one together. A equals 1, b equals, negative 7, and c equals 12. X factor again. Okay, 12 and negative 7. All right. Well, this one, just like our example on top here, we have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Now, we already know that 3 and 4 add up to get 7, but I need it to be a negative 7. So I'm actually going to put a negative in front of both of those because negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7, and negative 3 times negative 4 is a 12. So minus 3, minus 4 are my factors. So our binomials here, our factors, are x minus 3, x minus 4 equals 0. Now remember, I've set it equal to 0 because that's what it says up there. So now I'll say x minus 3 equals 0, x minus 4 equals 0. Add 3 to both sides. X equals 4. So my answer is x equals 3, 4. All right, so I want you to go ahead and do the odds on the front page of your homework. I just want you to work on odds on the front page of your homework. Now make sure you're looking at this one that says 8-6 solving practice and solving x squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, make sure there's not that extra a, because your a tonight, every single a value is 1.